Do you know that feeling of peace you experience when you're at home in your own space, away from the noise, away from people, away from the world? Maybe you've already wondered or even heard from someone that this isn't normal, that you should go out more, socialize, live life out there. But what if I told you that this impulse of yours to withdraw, this genuine desire to stay home, has a profound explanation in Carl Jung's psychology? Today we're going to talk about what it really means to not enjoy going out. Not as a defect or laziness, but as a legitimate trait of your personality, and even more as a signal of a powerful inner process that you might not have even realized you're living through. In this video, I'm going to show you 6 truths about people who prefer to stay at home through the light of Jungian psychology, and you'll realize that this behavior that the world insists on judging can actually be a portal to self-knowledge, individuation, and reconnection with your truest essence. Before we dive into these 6 truths that might explain a lot about you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy deeper reflections, and of course, comment below. Do you also feel that the silence of home says more than 1,000 conversations out there? Before continuing with the video, I want you to comment this word in the comment box, presence. But don't write it just to write it. Do it feeling it from the deepest part of your soul. Because when you choose to stay with yourself in silence, in calm, away from noise and close to the essential, you're choosing more than a place. You're choosing presence. Presence in your breathing, presence in your story, presence in your healing. Comment it if you felt this video connected with you. Comment it if in the midst of an accelerated world, you too are learning to honor your rhythm, your energy, and your inner truth. I want to read you. I want to feel that you're not alone on this path, and by writing it, let that small gesture be an act of presence with yourself and with all those who vibrate at this same frequency. Let's start from the beginning. Carl Jung was one of the first psychologists to look inward, to value what we feel but cannot explain with words. He was the one who brought to the world the idea that each of us carries a unique psychic energy and that this energy can move in 2 ways. Outward, as in extroverts, or inward, as in introverts. And this is where everything starts to make sense. If you feel that going out exhausts you, that talking to many people drains you, and that the silence of your room is almost therapeutic, maybe you're not wrong. Maybe you're simply someone who, as Jung described, has a soul oriented inward. For Jung, this isn't isolation, it's nature. It's your natural way of functioning. The external world can be interesting, yes, but it's not where your energy is renewed. You reconnect with yourself when you're alone. And that's not something that needs to be cured. It's something that needs to be understood. Truth number 1, you direct your energy inward. Now that you understand that for Jung, each person channels their psychic energy differently, let's delve into the first great truth about those who prefer to stay home. You direct your energy inward. It seems simple, but it's profoundly revealing. In analytical psychology, Jung called this energy libido, not in the sexual sense, but as vital force, the energy that moves your thoughts, desires, interests, and attention. While the extrovert directs this energy toward the external world, toward people, events, and social interactions, the introvert takes the inverse path, directing all of this toward their interior. This explains why for many people, a night of partying is revitalizing, but for you, it's exhausting. What recharges you isn't stimulation, it's refuge. It's being in your space with your things in silence. It's having time to think, feel, write, listen to music, or simply breathe without having to react to the world all the time. And here's the central point. This isn't weakness or evasion, it's simply your natural way of existing. And when you start honoring that, everything changes. Because trying to function as an extrovert while being an introvert is like trying to swim against the current. But there's more. That energy-oriented inward also means you're someone who observes before acting, who feels before speaking, who reflects before exposing yourself. That's why you often need more time away from external stimuli to process what's happening inside you. Staying home in this sense isn't hiding, it's keeping your energy where it needs to be, in your interior, where you listen to yourself, where you find yourself, where you strengthen yourself. And in Jung's psychology, that's not only healthy, it's essential for your individuation, the process of becoming who you really are. Truth number 2, you're more selective. Sensitive to external stimuli. Have you ever noticed how certain places, sounds, or even seemingly normal conversations can leave you exhausted or restless inside? This is the second great truth that Jung helps us understand. People who prefer to stay home are more selective and sensitive to stimuli from the external world. Jung believed that the introvert's unconscious is more permeable, more open. This means that everything that happens outside doesn't go unnoticed. On the contrary, it enters deeply, goes straight to the inner world, and begins to reverberate like echoes that last hours, sometimes days. That's why a simple walk through the mall can seem like an overload, an environment with many voices, lights, sounds, and smells at the same time. All of that can be too much for someone who has this internal openness. It's not exaggeration, it's psychic structure. Jung observed that the introvert doesn't live by the quantity of external experiences, but by the quality of internal experiences. So it's not about being antisocial, but about being careful. Each environment, each person, each conversation affects you at a deeper level, and that's why you need a certain filter. And that filter is often your own home. Staying home is your way of consciously choosing what you allow to enter your energetic field. You need time to process, space to breathe, silence to reorganize everything you've absorbed. And the most curious thing is that people like you are those who, when they choose to go out, when they choose to be with someone, they do it truly. They're 100% present because they don't live on autopilot. They don't live out of obligation. They live with intention. Jung said that the introverted soul is like a fertile field. It needs care, rest, and silence to flourish, and sometimes the best way to protect yourself from this noisy world is simply to stay home. Truth number 3, the challenge of your inferior function. Maybe you wonder, but why, even understanding all this, do I still feel out of place when I'm in a group? Why does the social still weigh on me so much, even when I'm surrounded by good people? Carl Jung has a profound explanation for that. He teaches us about something called the inferior function, a part of our psyche that, although it exists in all of us, is less developed, less conscious, and harder to access. Think of it this way. Each person has a set of psychological functions like thinking, feeling, intuition, and sensation. Some of these functions are natural for you. They flow, you use them all the time. But others are almost unknown territory. And according to Jung, when you need to function in that weak territory, you feel strange, vulnerable, insecure, and this manifests very strongly in social relationships. Why? Because for many introverts, the social demands precisely the use of their inferior function. That is, you're constantly placed in a place that isn't yours, at a rhythm that doesn't adapt to you, in a communication format that demands you be outward when your soul asks for silence within. The result? You leave home already preparing yourself emotionally. You enter a place and feel the weight of the environment. You participate in a conversation, and instead of energizing you, you feel drained. It's not a lack of social skills, it's simply that you're being demanded in an area that isn't natural for you. This doesn't mean you're condemned to avoid people, but recognizing your limits is wisdom. It means that the social discomfort you feel isn't a sign of inadequacy, but an invitation to respect you, our own psychological type. So yes, there are days when going out requires so much mental and emotional effort that the most honest and healthy thing is simply not to go out. And Jung wouldn't just understand that, but would say, are you listening to your soul? Truth number 4, you don't satisfy yourself with the superficial. You need authenticity. Do you know that feeling of being in a conversation circle, laughing, responding, keeping up, but inside feeling that you're not really there? It's as if the body is present, but the soul is somewhere else. This is the third truth about people who prefer to stay home. You don't satisfy yourself with the superficial. You need authenticity. Carl Jung said that loneliness doesn't come from being alone, but from not being able to communicate things that seem important. That is, the problem isn't the presence of others, but the absence of depth in relationships. More introspective people with energy oriented inward tend to develop a rich internal universe full of thoughts, questions, intuitions, reflections, and when they're in environments where that universe can't be expressed, they feel invisible, not because others ignore them, but because no one seems willing to dive with them into what really matters. Staying home then becomes a way of preserving your own truth. There you don't need to adapt or mold yourself or fake enthusiasm. You can be who you are without editing. And that's not selfishness. It's simply a legitimate desire to live relationships and moments with real presence. It makes no sense to go out, smile, and converse if everything sounds rehearsed, superficial, automatic. You don't want to fill time, you want to fill the soul. And when you don't find that in the external world, you return to the only place where space still exists for true encounter with yourself. Staying home in that sense isn't an escape from the world, it's a return to the essential. It's where you reconnect with your own voice. And as Jung said, what we deny in ourselves controls us, but what we accept transforms us. Truth number 5, you don't seek distraction, you seek depth. There are people who leave home to forget themselves. You maybe stay home to remember who you are. This is the 4th truth about those who prefer the silence of home. You don't seek distraction, you seek depth. In Jung's psychology, there's an essential difference between living outward and living from within. Many people live as if they're running from themselves, always busy, always moving, always seeking stimuli to avoid facing what they carry inside. But you maybe already realize that this path doesn't fulfill you, that there's something in the accelerated rhythm of social life that empties you, even when it seems fun. And then your room, your sofa, your corner become more than a place. They become a sacred refuge, a space where you don't need to act, where you can feel, think, write, doubt, cry, create, without anyone watching you or expecting something from you. That's seeking depth. It's exchanging excess stimuli for meaning. It's choosing silence, not as absence, but as real presence. Jung said that the soul needs mystery, symbols, meaning, and all of that is born in silence. All of that flourishes when you have the courage to stop, to stay, to dive into yourself. Staying home then isn't an addiction to comfort. It's faithfulness to the soul. You don't want to just fill Tim with distractions. You want to live with presence, with purpose, with truth. And that, my friend, is rare, precious, and profoundly Jungian. Truth number 6, recognizing the shadow. Up to here, we've talked about the profound forces that make you prefer to stay home. But like everything in life, there exists a less bright side, the shadow of that preference. Carl Jung taught that every characteristic of our psyche has its luminous side and also its shadow, that part that, if ignored or exaggerated, can limit us or harm us. In the case of those who prefer to stay home, the shadow can manifest as excessive isolation, that moment when refuge transforms into prison, when silence that was once curative becomes silence that suffocates. Jung warned about the danger of closing yourself too much to the world, because the human soul needs a balance between the internal and external. Being alone to recharge is healthy, but being alone to flee from conflicts, fear, or pain, there things change. The shadow of introversion can manifest in feelings like profound loneliness, fear of rejection, or even depression. And paradoxically, that isolation that should protect you ends up creating an invisible wall that prevents encounter with yourself and with others. But here's the good news. Recognizing that shadow is the first step to integrating it. Jung said that individuation isn't just a path inward, but also an invitation to open yourself to the world with authenticity. So if you find yourself spending too much time alone, if you feel trapped within your own house and can no longer find pleasure in that refuge, maybe it's time to look at that shadow with gentleness, to ask yourself, am I protecting myself too much, or am I hiding from what I need to face? Because growing isn't just closing yourself to the world, it's also learning to return to it with more consciousness, more choice, more truth. Truth number 7, you maintain a deep connection with your inner universe. If there's something Jung valued deeply, it's the intimate relationship that each person can cultivate with their own inner world. And here's the 5th truth for those who prefer to stay home. You maintain a deep and constant connection with your inner universe. When you decide to stay home, you're not just seeking physical comfort. You're choosing a space where you can find yourself, understand yourself, and truly listen to yourself. That inner world is a rich territory, full of images, feelings, memories, dreams, and symbols, all of this constantly dialoguing within you. Jung called this space the unconscious, a place where parts of us dwell that don't always show themselves on the surface, but that have a powerful influence over our choices, emotions, and creativity. Those who prefer the silence of home generally have a very close relationship with that dimension. You might not notice it, but while others distract themselves with what's happening outside, you're exploring your own internal map. It's in that place where you find answers to difficult doubts, where you discover unexpected ideas, where you feel that spark that gives meaning to life. It's there where your creativity is born, your self-knowledge, and your strength to face the world. For Jung, cultivating that connection is what brings balance to the soul, because it allows you to navigate between the conscious and unconscious, between what you know and what you still need to discover. So the next time someone questions why you prefer to stay home, remember, you're caring for your inner world, you're cultivating your essence, you're silently building your own light. Truth number 8, you respect your time. And rhythm. Have you noticed how the world seems to spin at such an accelerated pace that there's almost no space left to breathe? And in the midst of this whirlwind, those who prefer to stay home are often seen as too slow, out of reality, or even lazy. But here's the 6th truth. You respect your time and your rhythm. Carl Jung taught us that each person has their own internal compass, a unique pulse that marks when it's time to act, rest, reflect, or connect. While the whole world screams, run, do, produce, you know that your true power lies in knowing how to pause. It's in that time that you recharge. It's in that rhythm that you can process what you've lived, heal yourself, grow, and create. Respecting your time isn't being slow or lazy. It's a profound form of self-care and wisdom. It's knowing that the true result, the one that's really worthwhile, isn't measured by speed, but by authenticity. Jung said that the journey of individuation has no hurry. It's a delicate process that happens little by little at the soul's rhythm. And it's precisely that consciousness that leads you to choose to stay home when the external world insists on rushing you. You know that your rhythm is different, and it's exactly that which makes you be you. Conclusion: embracing your authentic path. Throughout this reflection, we've explored together 6 truths about people who prefer to stay home, seen through the lens of Carl Jung's psychology. We've seen that it's not about laziness or fear, but about energy that's oriented inward, about selectivity in face of stimuli, about a search for authenticity and depth. It's the courage to listen to your own soul and respect your own rhythm. Each decision you make to stay in your space, to opt for silence, to avoid excess, is an expression of your individuation process, of your path toward becoming a complete person. Jung shows us that we don't need to fit into external molds to be valuable. We don't need to be everywhere, talk to everyone, or participate in all parties to feel fulfilled. Actually, true fulfillment arises precisely from the encounter with oneself, from respect for your inner world, from understanding that your unique way of being is your greatest gift. So if you recognized yourself in any of these truths, if you felt that it's natural to prefer home to noise, reflection to emptiness, you should know that you're on the right path. You are, as Jung said, taking steps to be who you really are. And that, my friends, is not only valid, it's fundamental. If staying home is more than a choice for you, if it's a way of living, a manner of existing, I want you to know something very important. You're not alone. Carl Jung reminds us that each soul has its own language, its own rhythm, and its own path. And yours, that way of looking at the world from inside out, is a light that the world needs, because in a time where everything is noise, hurry, and chaos, people like you show the value of silence, depth, and self-knowledge. Don't feel guilty for needing that space. Don't feel less for preferring calm to commotion. Your authenticity is your strength. Your connection with your interior is your compass. And more than that, by respecting who you are, you inspire other people to also respect their own journeys. And that makes all the difference. So take care of yourself with love, embrace your essence, and always keep honoring that unique way you have of being. Because deep down, that's what Jung wanted to teach us, that being whole, being true, is the greatest gift we can give ourselves and the world. Well, in a world that doesn't stop, where notifications compete with heartbeats and clocks mark more than time, there are people who learn to breathe differently, not out of rebellion, but out of necessity. Not because they can't keep up with the rhythm, but because the soul demands another beat. People who discover that there's no more powerful connection than the one that occurs in silence. When external voices are turned off and one's own begins to be heard, they're those beings who choose to be with themselves, not out of loneliness, but out of intimacy, because they've understood that not every bond is company, nor is all noise communication. Remember always what Jung said, being yourself in a world that constantly tries to make you something else is the greatest achievement. Don't betray yourself, don't minimize yourself, don't dim your light for fear of making others uncomfortable. You are necessary just as you are, with your pauses, with your shadows, with your rhythm, with your beautiful and silent soul. Stay with yourself, stay home if that embraces you, stay in yourself, you are already the miracle.